I was, many of you may remember, some of you may not, that I was served Pasco County as the Supervisor of Elections for 26 years. I was elected when I was 22 years old in 1980 and served 26 years as the Supervisor of Elections for Pasco County. And I suppose I like to think that we're doing elections so well in Pasco that Governor Christ asked me to come to Tallahassee and serve as Florida Secretary of State, and that was in December of '06. And so I decided I would leave Pasco and go to Tallahassee and serve serve as Secretary of State. And then I will tell you, so because I know that I was asked to address this issue. I retired from state government in April of '10. And was retired for 8 months and minding my own business and working around the house and doing the honey-do list and such. And Governor Scott was then elected governor, and he asked me if I'd be willing to come back to Tallahassee and serve as Florida Secretary of State again. And I said yes. So I went up there and served about a year and a couple of months. In between all of this, our oldest son, Keith, was diagnosed with colon cancer in '09 at the age of 23, and he's cancer-free. Moffat is a wonderful, wonderful place. And so my wife left Tallahassee, I stayed in Tallahassee, and I started my commute every week back to Pasco County on Friday nights, then coming back to Tallahassee on Sunday afternoons. And I did that for what is the equivalent of the next 3 years. And quite honestly, it just got old. And I needed to be with my wife. In the interim, my son Keith had given us a granddaughter, first baby girl in the Browning family in a long, long time, first grandbaby. So I decided I'd be coming home, and it was time. I'd had my fill of Tallahassee. I believe we made a difference in Tallahassee. But it was time to let somebody else have fun in the state capitol. So that being said, I was born in Dade City. I was born in Pasco County, went to school in Pasco, graduated from Pasco High School, and then went on to Pasco Hernando Community College, picked up my 2 years, and then I went on to the University of South Florida and received my bachelor's in political science. And in the interim, I got elected as Supervisor of Elections. And so then I went back after I got married. We had 2 small children at the time, and in 1989 I went back to the University of South Florida and picked up my worked hard for my Master's in Public Administration, which is understanding how public agencies work, why they work the way they do, and how you fix, if you will, public agencies that are in need of fixing. And then I finished up my terms as supervisor, and then I told you I served as Florida Secretary of State. I will tell you that about a year ago, even right about the time that I went back to Tallahassee to serve as secretary, I had been getting a lot of phone calls and communications from businessmen and women, parents, teachers, school administrators, encouraging me to consider running for superintendent of schools. And I will tell you that it was not part of my plan. It really wasn't. But the more that I investigated, the more I listened, I realized that our district is in need of new leadership. And that's been a central theme of my campaign, and that is leadership. We need strong, decisive leadership that can make decisions and not let decisions that need to be made languish around until the problems that the decisions are going to be solving, hopefully, just exacerbate into something that's even bigger than the original decision that needed to be made. I will tell you that this campaign is centered all around student achievement. When you look at, regardless of what your opinion is on the FCAT, it is the standard by which we are all judged. And when you look at the FCAT scores in Pasco County, you will find them flat or declining. This past school year, we had the new version of the FCAT, which is known as FCAT 2.0, and those scores were abysmal. We were below state standards, and I will tell you, I don't like comparing ourselves to the state. I think it's a bad benchmark to use. However, You look at where we are with our scores in reading, in mathematics, and in science, and many of our elementary schools are well below the state standard, state average in those subjects. Now, I have a theory, and this is just not my theory, but folks, educators that I've talked to have confirmed this theory of mine, and that is that the reason that our test scores are flat or declining is because what this district has chosen to do is to use a top-down approach, a cookie-cutter approach, if you will, that we're going to teach our children how to read, how to write, and how to do mathematics one way. This is the model we're going to use. And I'm finding that is very true. Now, I will, when I make this statement, I always find out that there are principals or teachers in the audience who will come up to me privately and say, well, that's not the way we do it in our school. We do exactly what you're talking about. My problem with that is that it's not being used consistently across the district. So we have these schools that are using this top-down model, this cookie-cutter approach, and we're teaching our children the same way. And let's just talk elementary school, because I think those are vital, critical years. When you start talking about kindergarten, first, second, and third grades, those are key, critical ages that you need to teach those basic skills in. And my wife works for the district. She's a registered nurse. She's a school nurse. She serves 2 Title I schools, very low socioeconomic schools, but she loves those schools. She loves them. Rodney B. Cox Elementary School in Dade City and Lacoochee Elementary School in Lacoochee. If you've never been to Lacoochee, hop in your car one day and take a ride through the community of Lacoochee. Great little community, but very impoverished. And so what my comment has always been is that when we teach our children, those children at Lacoochee and Cox are going to learn differently than they would at Trinity Oaks Elementary. They just will. And so what we need to be able to do is we need to provide or allow school-based administrators and teachers and the rest of the school staff to work collaboratively together. Use innovation. Think of new ways that we can meet the individual educational needs of each one of those children. And under the current scheme, that's not being allowed. That's not being provided for in our school district. So it's all about student achievement. People says, well, let's talk budget. What about the budget? We've cut $55 million out of the school budget last year. They're looking at cutting somewhere around $26 million out of the school budget this year. We have a budget hearing Tuesday night, the first hearing on the school budget. So we have $26 million of less revenue to run this district. So what are we going to do? I know it was a common theme in Tallahassee that all you needed to do was just get down to that target. Forget about what ramifications there were of those budget cuts, but we need to get down to that target. And I think a lot of times that same mindset is used when they're cutting or reducing the school board budget. We've got to get down $26 million because we have that much less revenue. And I don't think that the budget reductions that the school district is looking at, or at least being recommended to the school board, is strategic. I think they need to be strategic cuts. They're not easy cuts. I'll be the first one to tell you they're not easy cuts. But I will tell you that one of the things that we need to look at is ask ourselves the question when we go to reduce the school budget is, how does this impact student achievement? How does this impact kids getting prepared for a 21st century economy? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Now, I'll also tell you, because personnel costs are probably 85+% of the district school board budget, it is tough to reduce a budget by $26 million without impacting personnel. I did it when I was secretary, and we had to reduce budgets, and very similar to what Ron said as far as the way that we made those reductions, we will do it. We try to do it through attrition. We try to do it through retirements. We try to do it through giving up empty positions. But when you're talking about a district as large as Pasco's district, we have about 67,000+ students. We have a $1 billion budget, it's just a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. But I believe that it needs to be strategic and not just a wholesale cut this budget just so you get down to your mark. I will tell you that discipline continues to be an issue in our schools. There was just a piece on the TV tonight on Channel 8 before I came over here. I was watching it on bullying. There was two tragic situations in Pasco County, one at Zephyr Hills High School, one at Sun Lake High School, where a young man attempted suicide in Zephyr Hills and did not follow through with it, but is now bound to a wheelchair the rest of his life. You have a young man that actually took his life from Sun Lake High School. There were 28 reported cases of bullying in Pasco County. 28 cases. Now I am telling you, those numbers are not accurate. And actually tonight on the news, the district admitted that those numbers weren't accurate. And when you have a district as large as ours, we have excessive bullying. And we need to take proactive steps to deal with bullying. There needs to be a safe environment for our kids and for our teachers and for our school personnel when they come to school. I've told folks over and over again, we cannot fix the problems that are occurring in the home. We cannot do that. Parents have got to get re-engaged with their kids. They've got to understand that there are expectations that when kids come into a school, that they need to be able to come in for a good quality education. But there's also the expectation of those kids that they're going to be behaved and they're coming in ready to learn. We have a lot of challenges and we're excited about the possibilities that are ahead of us. We can in fact make a difference. I've pledged to work at least the first year for no salary, simply to keep us focused on education issues.
The report, everything's about FCAT.
I was pleasantly surprised a couple of weeks ago when Governor Scott actually made a comment publicly that he thought that maybe we were putting too much emphasis on the FCAT. I agree with him. I think that what we're doing, and I've heard it over and over and over again throughout this district, is that our teachers are teaching to the FCAT. And I think in large part of that is because the new evaluation system that's in place now, and just went into place this last school year, that these teachers are now evaluated not only on classroom observation, but then 50%, currently 50% of their evaluation is based on the performance of their kids on that FCAT. Now, I will tell you, I'm all about evaluation, I'm all about accountability, and having a measurement tool to do that. But I think it's somewhat subjective when you take a class of kids going through a school. And you know, I think we all know, I mean, even kids amongst our own families, I mean, you have one son that just excels and the other one's sitting there, you just like to figure out if he's ever going to get out of middle school. Okay? And I think kids learn at different rates, and they come from different environments, and yet we're holding those teachers responsible for how well they perform on that FCAT. The FCAT's important because that is the standard today by which we are judged. I would like to see not only the FCAT, let me just say this, I think that you're going to see the state testing change again going into the 14-15 school year because of Common Core state standards, which are standards that have been adopted by 45 states in the District of Columbia. It's not government initiated, but it's Common Core state standards, meaning that now you're going to be able to look at the standards between Florida and Georgia and Kentucky, and they're all going to be based on the same standards, which is unlike what we have today because Florida has their own standards and you have these other standards across the place. I believe if we allow innovation back into the classroom, exactly, you're going to see teachers excite those kids to learn. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Make the kids excited.
Absolutely. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And there still is some team teaching. I just got in my 8 months of retirement in 2010. I was volunteering in a classroom, a first grade classroom at Rodney B. Cox Elementary School. I needed to do something with my time, and there was no team teaching in that school at that time. But there were textbooks that would be used. But when we start talking textbooks, we're talking more workbooks. Because most of that instruction was what I would call customized to, I think, lower income, lower socioeconomic first graders. And I mean, I sat in the class, I was intimidated in that classroom. These little guys are this big. And I'm crawling around on my knees trying to help them with math and with writing and reading. And you know, the teacher's doing the best they can, and it was an excellent, excellent first grade teacher. But I think most of the times that you're seeing probably the use of textbooks more, I think, when you get into the middle school and high school. And even then there's the big hullabaloo about whether or not we're going to buy two sets of textbooks. I think oftentimes government gets this idea that the public's out there for us, when in essence we are out there for the public. And who do we serve? Who are our clients? Our clients are our kids, our parents, and really the stakeholders out there in the business community. If we can't produce a quality graduate, then we're doing something terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. Of the budget, I think it's like $400 and some odd million is ad valorem. The balance of the $1 billion is federal and state dollars.
Are there mandates that come with it?
Oh, anytime that you get federal monies, no,
so
you're going to...
just like what you were talking about, somewhat is mandated to what you
Yes.
can do.
But I still believe within the confines of the mandates, there is, I look at it as guardrails. I mean, yeah, these are things you've got to do, but I still think that there's the ability for the district to be innovative in their approach on how they're going to teach their children the skills that are needed.
That is absolutely true.
With everything that we've been dealing with, the IB program is not something that I've really honed in on. Our son was eligible for IB when he graduated Pasco High School in '03. And he did not participate in the IB program, and primarily because of a distance thing. At that point in time, it was in Land O'Lakes. We were in Dade City, and we weren't going to get up at the crack of dawn and get him to Land O'Lakes High School. It was selfish. But you know, I've heard the same concerns voiced about the IB program. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I will tell you that if and when elected superintendent, that will certainly be something that we'll look at. I think anything that starts to tear down our moral fiber, our fiber as a country, then we certainly need to look at that and make sure that we're not doing it subliminally to our children.
That's exactly what it is.
When I believe our focus ought to be one thing, and that is teaching children basic educational skills. How reading and writing and mathematics, how do you critically think? How do you make decisions? How do you, but then I think that's where we start getting in the influences of IB and some of these other things we've discussed. We will look at that if and when elected.
Okay, thanks guys.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you very much.